everybody is already buzzed, just
Oh,
talking about the alcohol, alcohol this, alcohol that. Can't do anything without alcohol.
I can do one. I can go anywhere and just do one. No, that's what the devil on my shoulder wants to tell me. Restrain myself from alcohol in the moment to such a degree that I never thought I could. And even drinking what I did, it didn't feel good.
Yeah.
I saw the writing on the wall, and I just said, I can't do this ever anymore because I'm gonna be dead.
Hey guys, I have Matthew here today. He's almost 11 months sober. Thank you for being here. And I'm so excited that you wanted to share your story. Let's get into it. What changed for you 11 months ago?
Yep, actually, the main thing that changed for me was I had been going fairly strong with my sobriety. I was, actually just about last year I was about to hit 11 months, and maybe just I think just had, but I went downtown to a geologic talk with the Fort Worth Geological Society, and had found out there was a happy hour, and I knew that very well from geology events in the past in college and professional life, and that I knew there was going to be a bar. So I found out after the event, they were like, "Oh, we're gonna go chat," and I found some other people that I really wanted to network with. But I took myself there knowing what was going to happen probably, and then I had psyched myself up enough to where I was willing to throw it away. Um, and it felt extremely horrible the whole time. And then at the end of the event, I ended up seeing an individual who was a really experienced 30+ year veteran in the industry. He was drinking iced tea, and I had been giving cheers and all this stuff to everybody, and he had not even once thought about drinking. And so that was a sobering moment, if you will, but it felt kind of guilty the entire time, just having a single 12-ounce can. I sipped it like I was going to be arrested. I'd never felt that. And so to me, that was just a sign that, it's not for me. Just because
Mhm.
if I restrained myself from alcohol in the moment to such a degree that I never thought I could. And even drinking what I did, it didn't feel good. I knew it wasn't for me.
I love that you noticed that he was drinking iced tea, and it's like, oh,
Yeah,
you can do this sober. Hello.
yeah, right,
I don't
right.
think a lot of us don't realize that we can actually go to an event or a happy hour and not have to partake in the actual alcohol.
Yes, yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
I just went to a real estate event. And it was my first like really big one in a really long time since I've been sober actually.
Oh
And
yeah.
it was a parade of homes, and then we were on this
Oh
ginormous charter bus,
wow.
and the girl and I that went, she doesn't really drink or drink at all. I don't know. I don't know her
Yeah.
relationship with alcohol, but it wasn't mine. But
Yep.
I get there and everybody is already buzzed, just
Oh
talking about the alcohol, alcohol this, alcohol that. Can't do anything without alcohol, and it was just a big joke on the bus. And so it was
yes.
really just eye-opening to see, okay, I'm enjoying myself and everybody else is getting buzzed and drunk. And here we are, just the sober ones, just living our best life on this really hot bus. But I love that you noticed that.
Oh
It's
yeah.
there's something about being an event sober is so empowering when everybody else is drinking.
Oh yeah. Yeah. To me, that was wild because I saw him, behaving in that jovial kind of joking way that I used to think I had to have a few drinks in to be able to get to. And I just saw him in that relaxed state, not even paying attention to what we were doing. Of just like he was just having that happy hour feeling, but he wasn't in, imbibing whatsoever. And so it was just I was like, wow. That's like, because he was talking all these crazy, funny, even sort of like almost like these wild like stories of just like almost starting an international incident on a drilling with a language barrier in the Middle East. And he said like all these funny jokes about all there's an American over there, and I was like, wow. But he was, usually those stories would have been in college on a Friday after a few beers, and so with the professors, and so I was like, this guy's, you know, really kind of in that sort of frame of mind, but he's just having tea, and so that was really cool because I was able to see, it's just like he could still have that really fun social vibe without any of the other artificial needs to be able to get there. And so
Yeah.
I was just like, that's so cool. Cause I remember I used to do that. It's just like, I feel like during my college years, outside of it's like banquet events because they would have them in private areas, so we could drink under 21 because they said there was no law enforcement. So they said like it was a private bar, which was weird. They just didn't want us to, advertise it on Facebook or anything. Um,
Right.
but it was crazy because I would have a few beers there, but it was just I didn't quite have the need that I felt like I had when I became more of an alcoholic down the road. It was
Yeah.
still new, I guess. So, but I was able to enjoy so many things like without it. I mean, all throughout my first 2 years of school when I was 18 through 20. So I just like it was. I kind of see those times and say I could do that.
Right. How old are you now?
36.
Okay, so we're about the same age. What was your drinking like?
Oh, well, I mean, at very first, it was very hesitant. I was very definitely cautious and very like almost like trepidatious, just very like, very okay. I got to tiptoe because I was unsure. I just had beer mostly at events, a little bit of wine when I was probably like 20. Yeah, I might have been actually, yeah, I was 20. It was at a spring event. It was a local vineyard owned by somebody that was part of the department, and it was those little plastic cocktail cups at a downtown square. And so I was like, this is weird. I can drink all the wine. They need somebody to finish the stuff, and I volunteered, and it was free as tribute. And so I was like, and so they're like, you're 20, who cares? And uh, I'm like, okay,
Where's the
please.
cops?
Where's the cops? I was like, this is undercover. Somebody's gonna like, hey, undercover. It's like
Sting o sting
sting operation.
operation.
Mission. I was like, Mom, I'm not gonna graduate quite soon.
Mhm.
Uh, but it's like, but it was kind of fun, and it was kind of light. But I remember I would get at that point because I never had it growing up. I got buzzed fairly quick. So, but I didn't want to get past that at that point. I was still nervous. But when I was 21, I remember I went out on my birthday night and barely had anything. And I'm like, I have a quiz in the morning. I'm going to go to sleep early and be studious. And and then my teacher's like, I wouldn't want you to come because your 21st birthday. You're supposed to get drunk. And and I was just like, that's the weekend. I'm going to try then. And so I and so and so I was just like, I went out that Friday and started trying everything under the sun and just ended up getting sick every time. They did have a bus that you could call that was called Safe Ride, but it was for students that were male or female, but also any girls that were walking around at night and had to go off campus, and it
Oh,
was for safety, and it was a university free transport. They also considered the drunk bus, and so it was a drunk taxi, so they would take you back home.
the
Um,
safe drunk taxi.
yes, so and they just said, please don't get sick. If you do, use the trash can. But
Oh,
they said like so apparently they've had some incidents, mostly fraternity they said fraternity events and stuff. But they said like, it was fun, but I remember I had to clean it up sometimes after the next day for my roommate. I felt horrible because I'd sleep in and then he'd have to text me about it, and I took care of it, but I felt silly for just I mean, why was I doing that to myself? And I would do it weekend after weekend, and in college,
mhm.
it that's when it started accelerating, probably after my junior year, and started impacting my class attendance at times, but even attendance with the giving campus tours. And I had to lie that I was doing my thesis work when I'd oversleep and start going out the night before when I had something to do the next day. And so I'd start knowingly pushing the boundaries. But when I got closer to my graduation and my bachelor's, and then graduate school definitely continued. I even drank during the lab, but it was a night lab. The students knew it was right before spring break, but I just had a beer in there. But just mostly that time, I was just trying to push the boundaries and kind of be kind of the cool, like overly cool or something. But I just
Right.
remember doing like all the events. I just kind of got further and further, to where I really started blurring the boundaries of knowing whether or not I could go without it at all. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it definitely I could see that. Mostly binge
So,
drinking became the norm.
yeah, I think with a lot of college students, I mean, I didn't print out the statistics because I didn't think I was gonna talk about this, but
Oh,
somebody commented on my channel the other day about college students, like, the drinking problem starting in college. I mean, a lot of us started in high school, but then also
right.
a lot of us start in college.
Oh
Rarely
yeah,
do we start later in life. I mean, we have a
yeah.
few that I've talked to that started later in life, but so it sounds
Okay.
like college was when you started your downhill battle.
Yes. Oh, definitely. Yeah, I could definitely pinpoint like a time frame too. But and for sure I could see a few years that were really telltale.
Yeah. And
Um,
but you like so what were you going to school for? But
oh,
geology?
geology. Yep.
Okay.
And
And
to go
so
into like oil and gas.
do what?
To go into oil and gas work.
Okay. You're on
Mhm.
that side of the country where that is kind of
Oh, yeah.
like
Yeah, so
okay.
yeah, probably yeah, in Texas and the Gulf Coast.
Yeah. It's a little off topic, but I just watched Landman a
Oh,
couple months ago, so
oh, yeah, they were I actually drove past the studio. I think they were filming near my college for that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this big steakhouse, an old, like, historic, hotel in the stockyards. Yeah, they had a big film crew.
Nice. I could talk about that forever. But anyways,
Yep,
so that's
yep.
really cool. So
Mhm.
when people think of geology, I think they think of let's go dig up some I don't even know what people think. I mean, I'm
Some
way
people
off
think
topic, but
some people think dinosaurs and stuff, but I've got to do that a
that's
little
what I
bit.
was thinking.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, and I was like, "Wait, am I saying the right thing?"
Oh, no. Oh,
So,
no, that's true.
but I didn't realize that you can go into, oil and uh, like
Oh,
with
yeah.
that degree. What are you doing with it?
Oh, well, I mean, actually now I'm currently, or since I'm currently out of that, I'm more doing the academic I'm in the academic side, and so I'm
Okay.
I'm doing education.
Hence
Um,
professor. Sorry.
yeah, yeah, I just part-time teach at TCC, and so I'm doing earth science, so I actually get to do a little bit outside of my wheelhouse. I teach a bit of meteorology, oceanography, and
Oh,
astronomy, so that's pretty cool. I've gotten
yeah.
to expand my horizons sort of out that way in the other sciences, and a little bit of chemistry too, and biology, so and then physics a bit, so it's been pretty
So
cool.
you love science.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely
Um,
since I was a kid.
that's awesome. I was kind of wrapping that back around because
Yeah.
your drinking career started in college and now
Oh,
you're
yeah.
teaching at college. So I bet you get to see it from a whole different perspective now.
Oh, real oh, for sure. I even had, like, a personal, frank conversation, or I had a good conversation with a student heart to heart that we ended up without even meaning to, and when I joked around about having margaritas, but I had to make the virgin, while I'm in here, and but he was works in the food industry and cooks. He's a chef at a Hilton, and so he told me that he was just talking about, his personal journey, and so we got to talk about he said that he was also, going he was, as a part of, like we talked about being a friend of Bill's and talked about AA, and so but I just found out he was also, he's involved in his church, but he was also going through the sobriety journey, so and talking about how thankful he is as well, and so that
It,
was so cool.
yeah, I had a blood draw the other day and
Yeah.
I don't know what we were talking about, but somehow the phlebotomist also
Oh,
had
yeah.
she was on a sober journey also,
Well,
because she's like, "Oh, what do you do?" And I'm like, "Oh, I have a sobriety channel." I mean, just really casual, and she's like,
yeah.
"Oh, really?" And
Oh,
then as I was leaving, she's like, "You just never know, do you?" And I'm like, "You just
well,
never know. You
that's
never
so
know who
true.
has a problem."
Yeah. Yeah, that was so surprising, and, like, I just wouldn't have thought, and it was crazy, but it was really cool just to hear and, just to share that with each other and have that shared bond.
Yeah, I that's awesome. So, what were some, like, definition or, like, what are your rock bottoms to you?
Oh, I'd say for me, like, probably I know for well, I know for me, one of the biggest that I can think of was actually I mean, I could think of a few, but I mean, I know, like, when I was on my own, when me and my ex were separated and weren't quite divorced yet, I had gone down to Bourbon Street and New Orleans, and on my own, on a day when I knew I was gonna try to go into work to do some extra hours for the, geology work I was doing for the government, doing oil and gas evaluation, and so I told my boss I'm probably gonna come in tomorrow, do comp hours, and so I basically went out and I take medication for ADHD. So at that point, I was taking a higher dose, like 68 milligrams a day, but I wasn't eating as much just because of the when I was first starting it in those years, and so I went out
Appetite
without having
suppressant.
yeah, and so I didn't eat, and I was just on my medication and went and had, like basically went and had a few hurricanes that I found out have a lot of alcohol in them. Met a couple somehow and then or that was out there, followed them, and they invited me out, went to some other places, and then ended up having, like, this 72-ounce beer, but I had all this stuff and thought I was, "Oh, okay, I'm fine." And then walking back to my car, I just, like, hit me like a train, like, a massive amount of, like, intoxication. And so I was like, "Oh, whoa." And so it was just like, a switch. And so I ended up getting basically hurt. I tripped over a small curb, cut open my knee and my knuckles, and called 911. I hung up on them and then continued walking. I ended up giving somebody else a ride down to their car, got in my car, I drove home, don't remember any of that. And then I bandaged myself up somehow as well. I did triage on myself. And I even went to the ER. They were like, "You did that by yourself when you're intoxicated?" And I said, "Yes." But they said, "That's very good." So, but I ended up being okay, thankfully, and I got a traffic ticket that showed me driving through a red light at 3:30 in the morning.
Ooh.
And so I was completely, but I just, that was just a moment that was like, holy crap, like that could have ended so many other ways. And it was like the middle of the night, and it was in New Orleans. Somebody could have taken advantage of my wallet or anything. And it's just like, but and then I could have got hurt on the way home. I just, I'm so thankful because that was a moment to me that was a huge wake up call because I did that on a whim thinking this is a good idea. And it's just and it could have been completely avoided. And so at that point I knew I told mom I'm gonna take a break from this. I'm gonna really, and I was like, I knew during the lease sales time of those times, 3 months, 90 days, I really didn't ever drink. I was focused on my job. And so I could do it in periods like those times. But I knew immediately when those ended, right back at it. And so I would just immediately go back to just, all right, let's make up for the lost time. And I just remember that I would normally be exhausted at that point too, physically and mentally. But then I would say, okay, I earned these. And then so
The
I
reward
would,
system.
yes, the carrot and stick.
Oh. So you ran a red light? I mean,
Yes.
okay,
Oh,
like
yeah.
I say
Yeah.
that so nonchalantly, but
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how many times? I mean, how many times have we been so reckless like that, and then been like, oh man, we had a guardian angel watching over us or something? Because how that could
Yeah.
have went a way different, and how just terrifying. Could you imagine? Like we watch some of these stupid cop shows with these
Mhm.
drunks and their fatality
Right.
drinking and driving accidents. It's kind of watching it with a sober mind is absolutely way different than when we used to watch it when we were drunk. But these people that wake up from these accidents
Oh, yes.
after they t took somebody's life and not even realizing what they did. I mean, how many times, I
Right.
mean, like me, I mean, you were drinking and driving like that, and so many people do it. You could have taken somebody's life and not even realized it until you actually came out of your drunkenness.
Oh, yeah. Cause, yeah. And so, like, a quick thing that actually made me think of that was it still stuck with me to this day was when I was basically taking shots with a student from LSU. I drove home even though my friend who does karaoke, we're still friends. She had a couple daughters, and her name's Kelly. She was a paralegal. She said, "Matthew, you can ride with me. You need to get an Uber. I don't think this is okay. I just don't want you to get hurt." And so I said, "No, I'm fine." I started driving, and then a few seconds in, I fell in this massive feeling where I couldn't see hardly, and I was just out of it. And so I drove home, but then ended up felt like I bumped my truck against stuff, but I don't think I so. But then I got to my apartment, which has a gate with access. It didn't open. And so I said, okay, to heck with this. I'm going to see if my truck's Ford Tough. I was like, I'm going to ram it. And so I drove through the gate and broke the or magnetic seal and then tore up most of my bumper, not as bad as I thought it would be, but it was just like terrible. And I was like, and then when I cleaned it and went to the dealer, I saw like it was like a artificial hair, but it was like a braid, but it was a piece of a shirt, but it was mostly from wind and trash from the car wash but it just made me think. I'm like, okay, I'm just like, I saw my car this morning. I went to the dealer. I didn't have there was no signs or any indications that I would have actually hit anybody or hurt anyone. And so, but it's just like that just appeared, and somebody either stuck it on there from trash or it blew in. But it just showed me that as willing as I was to go through a gate, like I couldn't hardly see anything. I could have hurt someone easily because a lot of people around that area, some of them just walk, and some of them are drunk too. But some of them are, out of it for whatever reason, and they'll just walk in front of traffic. Kind of like in cities where there's people on bikes and things, and that may be homeless or maybe, maybe out of it intoxicated too or something. So I know I've seen that. And so it's great now because I can pay attention to it because I've avoided hurting people now because I drive to work through downtown Fort Worth and I see a lot of people that just don't pay attention and they'll go right in front of trucks. And so I'm always hyper aware because I just know that not everybody looks around before they cross the street. So
No.
I'm just thankful because when I saw that moment, I just realized, I was willing to just roll the dice on something like that. And
Yeah, we
it
we just
just,
had a
it's crazy.
fatality here.
Yeah.
A person, she was sober for like 7 months or something and decided to
Wow.
day drink, I guess, and she ran a red
Yeah.
light and took a grandma's life.
Dang.
I think this was just a few months ago, but I mean, it's so sad.
Wow.
And
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, it happens way more. I don't think the yes, of course, I know there's restrictions. I mean, somebody commented the other day like there
Oh,
are restrictions, but of course
oh,
there's restrictions, and everybody gets a slap on the wrist when they're
yes.
drinking and driving, and then
That's so true.
they get so many slaps on the wrist, they never get an actual, punch in the face per se. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
when are you going to have your wake up call? Is it going to be when you get aggravated murder or,
Like
um
manslaughter.
yeah, and or all the law terms of it, but I mean,
Right.
we know so many people that still just drink and drive and are reckless
Because
and they get away with it.
Oh, yeah,
I
and
mean,
like, I hate the term, like, I hate that they term it manslaughter, it should be murder. Like, I mean, just because it's not like first degree where it's premeditated, but at the same time, it's still within the realm of murder. I feel like just because you're drinking to the point where you're knowingly making yourself unaware of everything. So,
yeah,
I just like it doesn't seem so much like an accident. Like, just
no,
because I feel like an accident would be
you
like me
made the
driving
choice.
it's like me driving sober, and then somebody was running from another distance, and there's no way I could stop, like, in terms of the stop distance. Like, it's like, "Okay, yeah," but it's like but, yeah, it's so sad that the penalties are stupid because I drank with people that said they had 2 DUIs in New Orleans.
Hmm.
She was like a nurse, and she said, "It's okay."
That's it's sad. I know
Yeah.
one of my friend's brothers just got out of prison because he was a repeat offender.
Oh,
And some states are like that. And if
right.
you are a repeat, then you're going to prison. No ifs,
Oh.
ands, or buts. You are going to prison. I think this was in Arizona.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think enough states have a
Mhm.
strict enough drinking and driving. I mean, like years ago, my own dad just got an open
Oh,
container because he
yeah.
had an open beer and he was drunk. He got away with it. I mean,
Well,
it's just like
oh,
when you get away with things way too often. And I mean,
yes.
we all just made jokes about it. I mean, this was years ago. This was like
Right.
probably 20 years ago. I don't even know. But
Yeah.
you know, it people
Right.
from my town, there has been so many fatalities from drinking and driving, and then those people still 5 years later are back to drinking and driving.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's just so nuts.
Hmm.
I still can't
I mean,
believe
a
that I
little off
was
topic. We're not. I
doing that.
mean,
Right.
We want to know your story, but also
Oh,
like I think it's a big. There needs to be so much more education and penalties for drinking and driving.
oh yeah. Because I used to get mad when my family would talk about that. And they talk about MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. They talk about stuff like that, or I used to be like, "Oh, what are those people?" Or it's like, "I feel bad for you, I'm gonna pray for them," but what do they really know? Or about, about trying to criticize my drinking, and it's like, because I'm responsible or something like that, or
That's what we all
I was like,
think. Oh my
right,
gosh. Let me just get wasted and get behind the wheel and
right,
risk my life or
right.
somebody else's life.
Right. It's like, well, anytime I have a drink, I put it in the proper coaster so it doesn't spill, and then I wait until I get to my destination to have a sip. It's like I try to act like I'm some like scholarly expert on that, or like
Or I drive better when I'm drinking.
right, or it's like my senses are improved. It's like or something. It's like but it's crazy because it's like I would like I'd be scientific in so many things I would discuss, but I'd be going against scientific understanding, and I'm like,
Right?
hmm. I was like, "Okay, how does
That's
my book?"
that's what I was kind of thinking. You're so scientific,
Right.
but yet, I mean, there's so much science when it comes to alcohol and
Yeah.
but
I I really had a lot of
it's
bias,
crazy.
so I'm like I'd be, like, looking at articles that were like, "It's good for you." I like those. "It's gonna hurt you and you're drinking too much." I don't like those. And so
Yeah.
I would mute the ones that were making sense and were actually more peer reviewed. So I was like, "Yeah, there's something wrong here."
Yeah. I had a podcast with somebody who has a stage 3 liver cirrhosis,
Oh,
or
wow.
cirrhosis of the liver, however you wanna say it, but,
Right.
it's so true, we're just so naive and blind to alcohol that we're just gonna let it take our life or take someone else's life, or it's gonna be too late, and now we're gonna have this horrific health journey that we have to fight to stay alive, all because we were just so naive to alcohol actually does cause all these cancers and all these health issues.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it really does. That's what was, just like to me, like feeling like when I'd see people around me with issues, or I'd see people that were going through either cancers or various things, and or just people that had been, I could tell, probably drinking all their life. And I could tell we're older, still doing okay, at least looks like financially maybe, or, hadn't necessarily gotten in trouble as far as I could tell. But,
Yeah,
it's just like they had people at least looking out for them. But it's just like I could tell it took a toll on them, and I could tell, they probably necessarily didn't even maybe want to do that, but they were just doing it. And I just like, and for me, just drinking around the people like I was doing because it was an open container law, doesn't exist in Louisiana, I guess. And so I could take everything with me in my truck. And in front of an officer, I was like, it's like I had a double whiskey and coke and then two beers, and I'd be walking that in my truck, and he said, "Be careful, man." He's like, "You have a good night." And I said, just because I knew him so well, but he just, assumed that I was good. I mean, just by knowing me and also from the trust we knew, he just like, he's going to be okay. He's going to be careful. But it's just like he didn't see me, stumbling over. But it's just like I was doing that right in front of like a sheriff, knowing that he trusted
yeah,
me, and I was taking advantage of that just
yeah,
because I took advantage of all the people that saw me as having basically, he's got this, or he's under control. He's a good guy. He's got a good heart, and he's not going to hurt anybody. But it's just like I took advantage of all those relationships, and I was doing it right then, but I didn't call it that to myself. I just said, I was just like, I've basically just got, like you said, doing all that stuff and getting away with it,
mhm,
and that can go on until you just become fully complacent, and you just think, Yep, there's 100% chance nothing will go wrong,"
yeah.
and because it
So
hasn't.
right? I mean, and, this is why I like to share everybody's stories just because,
Yeah,
I wasn't dying in a hospital bed or just got out of prison. It doesn't mean that I didn't have a problem or you didn't have a problem.
yeah,
That's, people like me and
no,
you were able to quit
no,
before it got to that problem, recognizing that we had a freaking problem with alcohol. But, you know,
yes,
a lot
yeah,
of us don't
yeah,
realize that we have a problem or may like, oh, all those actions that I did while I was drinking, that was a problem. I definitely don't want to be that person again.
yeah,
And but just because, I mean, I've had obviously everybody knows that I've had people criticize me for my story. Oh, she just decided to quit one day. No, 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 no. That was not the case at all. That was
no,
not the case. And, and the
oh,
longer I
no,
am sober, the more I realize how much alcohol was affecting my life and how much damage I've done. But, kind of like you're like, I ran a red light. And I mean, obviously, there's more to your story,
yeah,
but
yep,
just in that moment, how terrifying you could have been on here telling a different story.
yeah, oh,
I
yeah,
mean, how tragic would that have been? Like,
yeah, yeah, it's just like that was now in 2018, and it's just like and I remember that weekend in September, like, in my mind, and just so it was just like, "Good lord," and it just started a chain, and every few years, something would happen either to me or something like that, and it would repeat. It was, like, cyclical, and
yeah,
I'm just like and so I just knew it was eventually gonna start it was gonna turn into something, and it's like it ended up basically where I had to resign from my job, and I even had a section chief, a boss above mine, who cared about me, knew me like family, and he's just like, "Matthew, if you're going through something dark or something's going on, tell me now. You can tell me anytime. I don't want because the next step is not gonna be, I can protect you from what's people who's higher up before it's gonna have to go to a higher level, but you gotta tell me." He's like, "We can get you help." And I said no because I didn't want to quit. And it basically, I thought that's the end of fun, and it was the only fun I knew.
yeah,
So and then I had to resign. It came to that, and it got me back home, and it got me AA now, but it got me into seeing that I needed sobriety. Even after a few slip ups after I got home,
Yeah.
I saw the writing on the wall, and I just said, I can't do this ever anymore because I'm gonna be dead. I just, I mean, I know that's the end all be all, but I said, I know that's where I'm gonna end up because death or prison, it's gonna be the case.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't know which one's going to be worse.
No. Oh yeah.
I mean, could you imagine spending your whole entire life in prison?
Oh no. Oh no, because it's just, yeah, and especially like for doing something like that. It's like
Yeah.
it's like something I can just say I don't need and not do. I can make a choice. And it's just like I want to be able to do that so I can help others and like I met a student and I meet so many people like you said, people you met, but I want to be able to share that and help others.
Mhm.
Just because not and not for my benefit, but I want to be able to help others to give them a hand when they need that or
Yeah.
help them not feel alone. So just
I,
because I felt alone, even around 20 people, I felt alone just when I was
yeah.
drunk.
It's a hard place to be.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of us don't want to let it go because that's all we know. And how are you going to have fun? What do you do for fun now? And I get that question a lot. Well, what do you do for fun now?
Right.
Or I love it when you were drinking, right? And people would ask you, "Oh, what are your hobbies?"
Oh yeah.
Well, sitting out back drinking, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
is that a hobby? Because I didn't know how to answer that. I mean, they would be like, "Oh, drinking wine, taking shots.
Right.
That's my hobby."
Yeah. I was like, wine tastings.
Yeah.
If I wanted to
Yep.
seem like very like becoming a sommelier, it's like I wanted to sound fancy. It's like, but I'm like, they're like, oh, alcohol, right? It's part of it. I'm like, oh, of course. I mean, and
It
so,
has to
but
be. It has to be, right?
it's like,
Society tells
and
you it has to be a part of your life.
yeah, like it's got to be connected. Or it's like I love the Coors Light trucks. I see all the time when I go to work. It said helping Texans chill, like like helping chill out. And I'm like, okay, I see what you did there. It's like
Yep.
that's clever marketing, but it's like, but I can. It's like no, I don't need that to chill anymore.
Mm, no. And I think a lot of people don't realize that you don't need the alcohol to take a chill pill. And
Oh no,
you have to find your own way to chill yourself. But, every person is different. What do I do versus what you do are probably two totally different things. I don't know. I just think about, I mean, going through so much stress lately in my life, I've never been tested
Mm,
so much. And I think I just did a post on this actually. I've never been tested so much in my
yeah,
sobriety until the last few months. And
right,
but I have it in my head and I play that tape forward. If I were to grab a drink to numb myself right now, it would just escalate everything else tenfold, like worse in my life. I mean, alcohol does not deserve a place in my life. It serves nobody around me or myself.
yeah, oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I just because I realized recently what I was when I was talking to my family, and I just said, I've been dealing with debt and debt issues from when I was drinking partially, but some when I came back and moved here without a job for a few months, and then just started spending on credit accounts, and then ended up not being able to pay them for a while.
Mhm.
And I procrastinated that just because I'm part-time working, not full-time. As many Americans, I found out just on YouTube and Facebook and everywhere, people I know, that everybody's having trouble finding work, either from out of college or even just transitioning work due to moving or something. But I just, waiting on full-time, getting rejected a lot, was kind of one of those things that used to would have put me out there. But then, like, other struggling things like just like dental work I had recently that's pretty painful. Some of those other things of just dealing with all that constant, waiting and patience and rejection of
Yeah.
just struggle and just, it's just like one of those things which just like I used to, oh, okay, I'm gonna kill the time by drinking. Or let's see, I just put in 80 applications that deserves a round. Or it's just like, one of those things where it's just like, Matt, I know what'll fix your struggles with waiting for work. Got to raise one or something. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like one of those things. But I'm just like, no, I'm just like, I don't need any of that. And so I'm just like you said, because I could play it forward and say, I'm doing part-time work, but I'm doing it essentially almost close to full-time level. And I know that other people I spoke with at the college said I can get a full-time offer if I just, continue working as soon as it comes up. It's pretty likely. They said, they'll see that you're really taking the initiative and that you can, you're willing to do anything to help. And so it's just I have a good relationship with my boss, Taylor, who has a PhD oceanography degree, but she's a good friend of mine. And so I can just tell that, I've been able to really be there for her and the other instructors, and the students. I don't want to jeopardize that
Yeah.
just by drinking because it would make me late. I would be missing communications when I need to talk to them outside of school. I could probably type something incoherent, or who knows what I could do if I tried to respond to an email. And so I know it would just be it's just a lose lose game, and I just know. I mean, there's no good way to come out of it. So I mean, and I know me, I could just I told my family recently, just like I could have a beer, like on a weekend probably and get away with that for who knows how many months. And then at some point when the shoe dropped on something, I would say, well, I'm going to turn it up either in a good or bad way. Either if it's
Compound.
celebratory or compound, it would just build up. And I'd say, I can do one. I can go anywhere and just do one. And then
Can
then I'm
we?
gonna go to a concert. And I'm like, no, that's what the devil on my shoulder wants to tell me.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it's like, you got this, wink, wink. It's like, and so I'm like, no. And I know that's not going to happen because I'm going to run into other alcoholics out there as I always did. And they're going to be like, ooh, look at that. That's a cool career. Can I get you one? And then they'll be like, can I get you one? Can I get, and everybody's just like, or that deserves a, and it's just like, I just remember all the time other drinkers find other drinkers.
Yeah.
And,
I like
and
that.
I was like, yeah, because we always connected. And they're like, this guy knows it. And they're like, do you care for, can you, they're like, what do you like? And everything. And they're like, oh my goodness. Yeah. They're like, you must have done this for a while. And I'm like, not really, but it's just like all those conversations start and it just ends up becoming just like if I were to hang out with anybody who doesn't, it's just like, it's wild because we always found each other. And I'm just like, it was wild to see the encouraging of the negative things happens just as much as but as a positive, but it's just like a lot of times it was a choice I made. I took myself there. And
Yes.
one time I just remember last year when I first moved down here, before I started at TCC, I saw a gal next to me and she's like, oh, I don't drink. Or she was having a drink with her mom who barely did. And she's like, well, I need a soda. I don't drink anymore. I'm in recovery. And I'm like, what's that? Recovery? And then another person was just college students were drinking by me. And I'm like, I was like, give me the biggest one you got. And I was like, I'm recovering right now, but in a different way. But I was just like, I didn't say that to her, but I was thinking that. And I'm like, oh, I was like, well, I was thinking actually, that's good for her. I'm really happy I understand. And just like, I may be there, but I was a little nervous to accept that. Um, and so I was just like, that takes courage to say that, but can I do that? And, and so it was kind of a struggle because I felt guilty drinking like that. I almost tried to be very quiet and not bothersome because I felt bad. Like, cause I'm like, am I causing her to struggle? Um,
Right.
I, I felt, I mean, I was just really aware of that. And then just later, I felt like I got out of hand down later that night, but in Fort Worth, but I remember I took myself there and I remember just being surrounded by people who either didn't care, didn't know, that would just keep serving me, even though I was obviously intoxicated, or being around people that just wanted to reinforce that because they also were probably a little slightly ashamed of their own feelings,
Mm.
maybe.
Yeah,
And
I'm glad that you brought that up because I feel like that is a
yeah,
big thing.
yeah,
I mean, I was just as guilty. I don't want to be the only one drinking. You're gonna drink with me.
right,
I'm gonna like shove it
right.
in your face and be annoying about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, because I felt weird about that, and it did you're right, because it felt weird. I mean, except I feel like the places I was at that I knew the bartenders or something, but if it was someplace where I didn't know anyone, I felt better when other people were drinking similarly, but not maybe at least somewhat around me while I was.
Yeah,
It did make me feel less restrained, I would say, and just the feelings of that were just weird, and even for me, it felt weird drinking around families. Like at the Hooters in Louisiana was one of the main spots for wings. Couples and wives and husbands would come watch games that were from the area just to meet, and I'd see kids that were teenagers or other people, and it was weird saying, or the kids would be sweet, and I'd say hello to young kids like 7 or 8 or 4 or 5. They'd be walking around. I'm like, they're really cute, and the dad might have a beer, but it was just I felt nervous because I'm like, I don't want to do anything too weird or respond oddly in front of a
hmm
child. And I'm like, it just felt odd trying to sober up while I was speaking because I'm like, I'm speaking to a young child. I don't want to show them, and I don't want to be inappropriate, just like by trying to like high five too hard or trying to be weird. I just
Yeah.
like, I want to be kind, like this is a child. And I'm
Right.
like, but I'm getting drunk around a child. I'm like, this just none of this sounds good. So I'm just like, this just is not a good recipe.
Do
So
you do you notice, I mean, I notice it a lot now. I go to
yeah,
when we go to restaurants and stuff,
yeah,
and all the adults at the tables have alcohol,
yes,
multiple rounds, and they have their kids with them, and
I see that.
you just see it from a way different view now
Oh
versus,
yeah,
oh, everybody's here drinking, let's all have
yeah,
fun. Now it's like, who's driving from that table? Like,
yeah,
who's responsible for
right,
these children?
yes. Oh my God, yeah, yeah, totally. I definitely see that. And it was funny because when I was drinking, I used to be like, maybe this is a one-time thing, or they got this, or I'd always justify it for them.
That person's
But
not drinking as much as the
no,
other person.
no,
Yeah.
that's yeah, they're experienced enough. They know, or
Yeah. They just live
something.
down the road.
They're close. I'm like, and I'm like, what was that? But yeah, I was no, I definitely see it that way too. I'm just like, yeah, because I'm like, you're having two large margaritas, like, mm. And so I'm just,
Depending on the margarita, you could be drunk off one, or you
yes.
could not even get a
Oh,
buzz off two.
that's true.
So,
Yes, I've had both. I've had both varieties.
right?
I've had a lot of sour mix, and it was nasty almost.
Yeah.
Very sweet, but where they were trying to get the money out by saying there was alcohol in it, but really just nothing. On
I've been to a
so
I've been to a Mexican restaurant and it was way too sweet, and I was like, I need
yeah,
more. He literally brought over the tequila bottle and like just poured, and I was like, oh, okay, we're doing this. But I mean, whatever. Now I'm like, give me the virgin margarita.
read it. Yeah, yeah. Whoa, it's like I guess I'm gonna be on vacation in Mexico, even if I'm really not.
Exactly.
But it
Do you just
was
want to pour it in my mouth?
poured in my mouth like oh they actually did they did do that at the place by me for birthdays.
Oh,
Yes, I didn't ever try it, but I just remember, like you said, there was one of the 2 versions of the margaritas. They would give me what they called the monster that serves 4 people. Um, and it was, I forget, 40 or 50 ounces. It was it was like it was like a large
oh,
mixing bowl.
yeah. Yeah, I've had those
And
before, and there's 2 of us
they
drinking out of it.
yes, and they said, Senor Mateo, he said, that serves 4. And I said, no, I said, Senor Mateo, I said, muy grande. I just said, I said, mucho trabajo. It's like, trabajo? It's like, trabajo, no bueno right now. And so he's like, oh, sí. And so he just gave me like he's like, muy grande. I said, yeah, muy grande. But it was wild though. But they knew me and my apartment was down the road, but it was just like they were impressed. And I'm like, but now I'm like, that's not as impressive as I thought it was.
No, looking
So
back all those times, ooh, I'm such a badass, and then all of a
yeah,
sudden,
no.
ew, that's really not classy at all.
Because I'm like, yeah, I was like, that was impressive until an hour later. And then I felt it in the next
Hmm.
morning for sure. And then I'm like, what was I thinking?
Right. So you decided to quit drinking and then you started AA.
hmm Oh, yep. Yep. I
How's
started
that journey?
a little bit after, but my family drove me there after
Okay.
like probably, what was I going to be? I think it would have been, yeah, after I moved down, I guess it would have been like probably one of my third times when I told them I'd be okay on my own driving around and stopped at a bar, had like 3 rounds in an hour. They said, we're going to drive you to AA, but I like it. For me, it's been good. It was really good at first just because I was really nervous, even opening up a little bit, but more so of just if I was going to be able to do it, how hard is this going to be? Um, am I going to get along? Is this going to be all right? But then it ended up being just a really good journey for me just because I have a lot of support, men and women, people of all ages ranges pretty much, and people of all different sobriety, different, perspectives. And just it's been really good for me of just having that accountability, but also people I can run into even around town, but even people I can keep in touch with just throughout the weeks.
Mm.
And just being willing to talk to you anytime. And they said especially if you're thinking about drinking, they said please, and just go down the list and call because we want you to we want you to be safe and to succeed. But they said also, it was nice because people are there for anybody if they do slip up. and they said, we'll be there to drive you. If something's happened, so you don't take that risk. And so it was just, it's been good for me, and for me, like my sobriety chips as well have just been a personal reminder for me to hold on to, even when I'm busy. It's actually a part of what I keep with me, like my watch and my keys, and I keep it in my pocket every day, everywhere, every day. And
I
so I
love
feel it,
that.
like when I'm nervous with my thumb, just when I have my hands in my pockets, and I'm just like I feel it, just even when I'm thinking about going out, and I'm just like, okay, that's 10 months, man, and I'm like, this about to be 11 months, and I'm just like, I got to keep doing this. It's just like I can't throw that out, and so I
Yeah.
just like because I know no matter how big or small I go, it's not going to matter because it's going to go. I'm going to get back to what the raging level that I was, so to speak, of just not no cares whatsoever. And so I know that that could happen in a few days or a few months, but it's going to happen, and just to where I'd be no use to anything. So,
What was that first week like when you first quit drinking? Like, when
oh
did you have any physical withdrawals
yeah,
at all? You did?
hmm yeah, definitely my mind, or I mean, I felt kind of just like out of it mentally, but I felt really tired and like kind of lethargic, but just kind of I felt really
Mhm.
weird. Just definitely not like it was almost anxious, and then really shaky, a little bit shaky, like if I had too much caffeine kind of feeling, like just that kind of like tremor feeling. Not too bad, but a little bit. And then my sleep was weird. That wasn't easy. And so I definitely had that kind of a feeling. And my appetite was a bit off, I'd say as well. But like, and I did use something I found out I can't use now. I drank non-alcoholic beer, which I found out they can sell you if you're under 18, but it has less than 0.5%. So they said it has alcohol, and
There's
they
a
just don't tell
few
you how
out there
much.
that have 0, 0. Yeah, there's
Oh,
few
and
that
actually, and so I had those mostly, and I found out that's recommended if you're just cutting cold turkey. They said like just as a tool to help you with withdrawals at first,
Oh.
and so they
The
said,
zero
yeah,
point zero five ones?
I
Or
think so. I think I read that somewhere. I've heard it, or I've heard it mentioned sometime. Like I think it was in like maybe an intervention show or something, but I've heard it somewhere. Maybe it seems like I heard that in my mind that some people, if they're really strong withdrawals, they said that's a good thing in a
Oh,
controlled way, like not like
yeah.
not like saying this is something I can have forever, but something that somebody can give them that might help with the take the edge. They said if you're just really struggling, but they said but they said once you become sober, fully sober, they said you do have to keep an eye. And so I did when I was shopping for stuff and saw like a Moscato. I think I saw something like a white Zinfandel something, and it said zero alcohol, but I said okay 0.5. Okay, I said no.
Mhm.
But then like you said, I did find a few beers. I think Heineken. I have a 0.0 from them I've liked,
Yeah.
and then I have one now, a Michelob Ultra Zero.
I
Um,
like those.
me too.
I just tried those
Yeah,
in
me
Key
too.
West.
I just bought them at a Walmart by me, and I do like them. It's really good. It's actually not bad. So, yeah, I've been able to find a few.
I didn't start the NAs for, like, maybe 9 months?
Yeah.
6
Oh,
to
yeah.
9 months, somewhere in there. I
Yeah.
didn't do the NAs.
Yeah, I waited a little bit first for sure. I did when I went fully sober and found out I couldn't have them. I missed the 0.5s though, but it was mostly just because I feel like it was crazy, but I could taste that tiny bit of alcohol in there. Like, I could
Some
tell. It's
yeah.
crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, I, like, refused in the beginning. I was like, "I
Yeah.
am not touching that. That means I am still having a beer." And
Yeah.
then I found the 0, 0s. I was like, "Oh, okay. I can
Yeah.
try these."
And it was funny too, like, I think Billy Bob's, they said they had the near ones, Shiner made one, but she warned me because her friend was sober, and she said, "Well, I'd sell you that, but it has zero point 0.5." She goes, "That's not." She's like, "I'm pretty sure that's not good for you, right?" And I'm like, "No." And she's like, "So," she's like, "You might wanna stick with Coke, we don't have the other stuff." But I found out, like, at a bar I went to at Texas Roadhouse, they had Heineken Zero, and I drank 2 of those, and then that was one of my relapses when I was about 8 months or so, and I said that, like, I'm like, but then I saw everybody else, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna go for the whiskey," and I switched from 0 to that,
Mm.
and so I found out, though, I can enjoy them, but it was like I know I had a few times when I went out and had but I just like you said, I felt like now I was way too early in my sobriety to even do that
Yeah.
just because I wasn't even sure where I was at, and I was by myself,
Mhm.
and doing that. And so now I found out when I'm out and I've had one of those, like it's a different feeling now because even when I have it at home, I know I'm not drinking. I know I'm not drinking a beer, and it's
Right.
just like it's more of a mental relaxation for me
Yeah.
almost, you know. But
Yeah.
it's not like it doesn't make me want to go get one. So it's a
Same.
different place I'm from now, which is
And you
good.
don't chug them like you did regular
No,
beer. I mean,
no. Yeah.
how many can I finish this six-pack tonight?
Yeah, it's
Versus
so
like,
it's
am I even gonna finish this one tonight? No.
oh, yeah, because I've definitely, like, not finished one all the way,
Yeah.
and it's fun too because it doesn't feel like I used to be where I was the alcohol abuse mentality. Like, I can't waste this stuff, or I purchased this, or that's a sin to throw it away. It's like
Party foul.
party foul.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, I had a lot of questions about that in the very beginning, and I didn't know
Yeah,
how to answer that because I never tried them, and I had very strong opinions of them because I know that
right.
some people leaned towards those in the
Yeah.
beginning, but then it always took them back. I think you have to have a certain mindset to be able to drink them
Mm,
and to stay sober because I think it'll lead you, "Oh, I'm gonna drink these. Oh, well, then I'll just
mm,
drink regular beer because 'cause I'm not
yeah,
drinking, vodka or
right.
whiskey,
Mm,
but I'm gonna
yeah,
do these zeros for a while and then just switch to beer," and then it takes them right back to what they were drinking originally and right back down the whole rabbit hole of being alcoholic, and so I've
yeah.
always just
That's
been really, like, leery, like, okay, I know that it worked for I have done 2 podcasts with Max, and it's worked for him. He
right.
switched from regular beers to the Bud Zeros, and it's worked for him,
Yeah,
but it hasn't worked for everybody, so
right.
that's why I don't have a
Yeah.
strong opinion on it because it's, like, per person.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, because I know that that can be, like you said, it can be a slippery slope, and just because it's just like you have it and you have 75% of the flavor,
Yeah,
then the other 25% comes from the sugars and whatever, I guess whatever I found out when I went to breweries, they use different hops and stuff, but it comes from
yeah,
the different fermentation processes. And so it's just like, yeah, alcohol does give a part of the taste, but it's not all of it. And so, I mean, but it's just like the taste that I get, like you said, from those, I can discern and say, I like that part of it. So, but I recognize now that the more bitter, kind of the sour part was the alcohol. And I'm just like, but I know I don't need that. But it's just like if you were somebody that's starting out and your body's still mentally, physically craving it, that if you have that, you're going to notice that missing piece.
mhm.
And that could, like you say, it can pacify you for a bit, but then you might say, well, I need the full. So, but yeah, so it is a careful thing to be careful for. It's something
I
to be
haven't
watchful of.
I haven't found an NA IPA that I like. I've tried
Oh yeah,
Well, I
me
think I've
either.
only tried one. I think I've only tried one, and I was like,
Yeah,
"Ew, did I really like IPAs? This is disgusting." But I like the hop water. Like, there's,
yeah.
Sierra Nevada makes and Lagunitas makes
Oh
it's just water. It's hop
yeah.
flavored water,
Oh
and I
cool.
really like those, but I did
Yeah,
not like the
I think I tried one
Sierra
too.
Nevada IPA. It was so gross. I'm like,
It was
"Pour it
bad for me
out."
too. It was nasty. I couldn't do it. Mm,
So
yeah.
you're right, like, there's a difference, and if
Hmm.
you're too new into your journey, you're gonna go right
Uh,
for that stronger
yeah.
beer to get that taste that you're
Yeah.
craving.
Yeah, it's gonna be like, hmm. Yeah, because I've eaten like diet stuff, or I've eaten foods that are weird, or I've out of my normal normal taste range, and I'm like sugar free. I'm like, let's try the sugar free. Oh no, no, okay, I need sugar. I'm like,
Yeah.
I was like, I need
I
give me the real ice cream. I'm like, no, but
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I'm like, yeah. That's like, but I knew I couldn't, but it's just like I could see how that could happen, and for me, that was the case early. Even when I kinda leaned on for me, I stuck with those near beers even with the alcohol, because my family was like, "Matt, if you go to AA, it's probably not gonna be cool, or it's probably gonna be recommended for you to keep drinking." Like, and I'm like, "Well, I don't know." And so I was even hesitant to give up those, but it was just because I wanted that little bit of alcohol. I needed it at that time, and so I'm glad I gave it up though, just because I knew I could have ended up drinking those to the point I would have had to buy a ton of them. I know, but with my tolerance, but I just eventually I would get drunk because it's zero point 0.5, but it's like, it's like what I guess like giving a mouse a cookie. It's like I could keep going, but
Yeah.
and so even if it spent all my cash, I'd probably do it. but it was just like it was crazy. But and so I knew I needed to give that up. But like you said, now I can drink those NAs and that's fine. Because it's nice because if I'm driving home and I'm like, instead of stopping at the place I used to, it's like I can go home and have one of these and have one of these and kick back and relax. And it's just like, and it's
Yeah.
cool because it's guilt free and and it feels nice, but it's just I don't have any of those negative side effects, which which I know come with beer and any alcohol.
Yeah, exactly. So, how did you fight the urges in the beginning? Was it those
Oh,
beers?
oh, well, yeah, for me, I mean, at the very beginning, I for sure, like one of the things I had to do was keep myself. I mean, I actually did not go or think of going to anywhere like a brewery, a bar, any sort of outdoor venue because my friend invited me
Mhm.
to an event that was for like a wedding or for a buddy of his. It was some kind of either that or wedding shower. There was some kind of wedding deal or something. And he's like, "Want to go to Dallas to this place? It's like the Garage Monkey or someplace." But it was some like outdoor music place that had like beers and stuff, and it was a brewery. And I said, "No, I can't right now, man." I said, "I actually have given up alcohol, and so I don't want to risk it." And so he said, "I understand, man." He said, "We'll get together another time."
Oh,
And so it's just, it was nice, but it was one of my good friends I used to drink with. And so it was a hard thing, but I had to let him know. And so I even told my dad, I told my dad, my stepmom, they went out of their way to not mention alcohol or even drink it around me. And so he said, "I don't want you to stumble, on your journey here, Matt." And so he just said, "We have beer here, but we also have this. We have Coke and Diet Coke." And they actually avoided drinking around me. And
yeah,
so
that's
he said,
respect.
so it's really nice. That was a big
Yeah,
part of it. I just knew I couldn't go out. But to me, the biggest thing was when I had those urges, I had to make sure I didn't put myself in a place to fail. And
right.
so, I stayed home, did anything else I could because I just knew that was going to be a big risk. And if I did go, I went with somebody that was strong and I could be trusted to be accountable. Just
Mhm,
because I knew if they had their eyes on me and I didn't want to let them down, I wouldn't do it.
mhm,
So, and so that's what I really recommend because I had to take my time to find when I was coming from a place when I could go and I had faith I could do it. And I know I can now because
yeah.
I've gone to Billy Bob's in downtown Fort Worth and went to a concert, stayed there 8 hours around everybody else getting smammered. But
It's
how,
different
it
from a
was
sober
different.
view going to a concert.
Oh yeah, and I think it was crazy because I spent on Cokes. I think I spent $8. I spent $11 over 8 hours, and I probably would have
Yeah,
spent 100 or 105 on
easily.
beer easily. And because I drink
Yeah,
high shelf stuff, so it probably would have been 200.
yeah,
And then
same.
I had to drive like 50 miles back.
So it was nice and refreshing. You left with money in your pocket still and
Yeah.
got to drive home without
Yep.
stressing about running a red light.
And I didn't have to stay till closing time. I left 2 hours ahead of closing, so which is never heard of in my history. So they said it was like 2 hours from last call. I'm like, nope, I'm out. I'm gonna beat the people that are possibly driving under the influence. So
Yes, we've done that too.
yes.
I found this quote: "Recovery is not a straight line, it's a spiral. You come back to things you thought you understood and see deeper truths."
Hmm.
I feel like once we
Yeah.
get out of drinking, we realize so much.
Oh yeah. That's a really dang that really hits home for me because it
Mhm.
was not a straight line. Like I've seen this like Facebook thing, my path to success, not a straight line. It's a crazy topsy turvy. And I'm just like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's my recovery journey. It was not straight whatsoever. It wasn't a simple just do this and that. And so for me, yeah, I did stumble hard, quite hard, like twice. I feel like my first year in AA, within 2 weeks of each other, the same day,
Oh, wow.
and it actually ramped up. And I noticed I went to a place that cut me off because I drank too many cocktails within an hour. The manager said only small beer now, and apparently I was like, I didn't even know. Then I went to another place, opposite. They were pushing me to have as much as I can because they were impressed. So that was a wild variety, but it's just it's unexpected, but it can happen. And those were both
Mm.
days that I was either having a rough day or just kind of frustrated from whatever was going on at the schools I was working at those days. And so I took myself out and said, okay, I said, let's see what happens. And so it's like I kind of knew it. And but it's just like I mean, you have to watch out for those times, but it's just for sure, not even getting that as close as I got, because once I pulled in there, it was over. I knew
Right.
once I parked and walked inside, I was gonna lie my way out of it if anybody was trying to contact me. So even if I had to get up at work at 5 in the morning, and I stayed out till 12. But it was just
Oh,
like
brutal.
it was just not fun the next day, and so I had to hide that from everybody I worked with, which was not pleasant, and feeling nauseous when I was teaching, so I couldn't get up and go anywhere.
Oh.
And so I had to smile through it in front of all the high school students that I was overseeing, that were juniors and seniors, and so. But it was just like interesting, and so I just knew. But I mean, it's just like those times were unexpected, but it really helped me gain strength in just knowing what I didn't need to do next time, because I learned from it both times, and I had the desire to actually get sober again immediately, pretty
I
soon
love
after,
that.
because yeah, because it's just like it wore off, and it's just like it was basically just like an illusion. I was under a hypnosis, so to speak, and it's just like I woke up and I just said, "Wait, I feel like crap." It's just like this ruined my entire productivity and any I mean, my extra energy I need for these kids or for the teachers, and I'm not fully here. Like, my mind's 50%. It's just like and so I just it really messes with so many things of that nature, but I didn't want it again. And I knew how dangerous it was.
I love that. I think too many people they don't wake up soon enough after a relapse or, you know,
Yeah.
if you even want to call it a relapse sometimes. But I think you just have to get right back up and just keep pushing forward and say, screw you, booze, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
it
yeah.
doesn't matter how many times you fall, just get back up and try again and again and again. And
Oh,
one
yeah.
day it will click.
Yeah, because I know even though it occurred within those 2-week time frames, that it's just like, I could easily just compare it and see, okay, this got that much worse. And I pushed myself that much further back to where I began, at my worst times. And so I just knew, then I thought of, okay, how many things am I affecting? How many risks am I taking in this area? Just
Yeah,
like, I mean, how much more dangerous is this going to be? Um, just because I know there's so many different factors. And I just thought of all the different things and how many things I was impacting myself and all those around me. And just because when I got buzzed enough, all that didn't matter almost.
no,
Just in a fraction of a second, it left my head.
right.
And so that was a wild thing just to be so selfish, just to where I didn't care as long as I was laughing and joking with everybody around me,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
it was all about having a good time.
Yeah. And now you're having a good time sober, almost a year,
Yeah.
and
Oh
that's
yeah.
a huge accomplishment.
Because I feel like it's just like even better now, just because I didn't realize the times before I even thought of alcohol when I was in high school, when it was just like I didn't need it ever any whatsoever. I had the best times of my life in those
Right.
summers and some of those times when I was without a drop. And I realized how much better that was and freeing it is, because I can really have full energy and full focus on what I'm doing. And I love it so much more.
Yeah. I think too many people like, I wanna end on this, like, I just don't think
For
enough
sure.
people give it enough credit. I think they just fall too easily. But I really appreciate you sharing your story, and
Oh, thank you.
I am so proud of you for being almost a year sober and sharing your story. I know, like, it's not always easy, but,
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, I'm sure you're gonna resonate with a lot of the subscribers, and a lot of us, resonate, so much, and it'll hit
Oh, yeah.
somebody out there. But I really appreciate
Oh,
it, Matthew.
oh, you're more than welcome, Megan. Yeah, thank you too. And I noticed your shirt. That's awesome too.
This was a test, so
Oh,
I don't know.
that's cool.
I designed this, but
Oh, awesome.
we're just
That's really
running
cool.
ideas. But yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you.